There are people who glow quietly, not with noise, not with spotlight, but with presence. They're the ones who step back when praise is given, who blush when eyes turn their way, who seem almost uncomfortable when the room expects them to shine. To them, attention feels like exposure, not celebration. As if every gaze isn't admiration, but examination. As if every smile hides expectation, and every silence demands performance. While others crave the stage, they long for the corners, the safe spaces where they can simply be unobserved. It's not insecurity, not always shyness, and not necessarily fear. Sometimes it's something deeper, an inner equilibrium easily disturbed by being seen too much, too closely, too suddenly. Because for some, attention doesn't feel like light. It feels like heat. At its core, the discomfort with attention isn't just social, it's psychological. It's about how the self relates to visibility, how identity feels under the weight of other people's awareness. When someone hates being the center of attention, what they often fear is in others, is themselves under scrutiny. Attention magnifies self-awareness. It amplifies every movement, every tone, every perceived imperfection. Psychologists have long noted that our sense of self changes in public settings. When we feel watched, a part of the brain called the medial prefrontal cortex, the area linked to self-evaluation, becomes more active. We start monitoring ourselves through the imagined eyes of others. And for those who value composure, control, or authenticity, that awareness can feel overwhelming, almost invasive. This is why a person who is calm in private can stumble when eyes are on them. Why someone articulate in small groups may freeze when they sense expectation. It's not because they lack confidence. It's because their focus shifts from expression to observation. They stop being in the moment and start seeing themselves from the outside. And that can quietly drain the joy out of connection. There are two main psychological roots behind why some people recoil from attention: sensitivity and self-protection. Let's start with sensitivity. Highly sensitive individuals often process sensory and emotional information more deeply. Noise, movement, emotion, everything lands harder. When all eyes turn to them, their mind doesn't just register it, it absorbs it. Every glance feels loaded, every reaction analyzed, every silence filled with potential judgment. A simple birthday song, a surprise party, a compliment in a meeting, to others, it's a moment of warmth. To them, it's overstimulation disguised as kindness. Their heart races, their mind scans for what to say, and their body just wants to disappear into the background. Psychologists describe this as heightened social arousal, the nervous system interpreting attention as pressure rather than connection. It's not fear of people, it's sensitivity to emotion, because attention, even positive, still demands energy, and sensitive people guard their energy carefully. Then there's self-protection. Some people have learned, through experience, that attention isn't always safe. Perhaps they grew up in homes where being noticed meant being criticized, or in classrooms where speaking up led to embarrassment, or in relationships where their feelings were dismissed when voiced. Over time, the subconscious learns visibility equals vulnerability, so they adapt by blending in, staying quiet, deflecting praise, avoiding eyes that linger too long. They don't do it to hide who they are. They do it to protect who they are. There's also a subtler reason. Some people genuinely prefer depth over display. They don't seek validation through reaction. They seek meaning through connection. Being the center of attention often feels performative, and performance feels inauthentic. So they'd rather engage in one quiet conversation that feels real than impress a crowd that feels distant. In psychology, this is often linked to introverted self-concept, a personality pattern that draws strength from reflection, not exposure. For such minds, being seen too widely can feel like being spread too thin. Their inner world thrives in quiet. That's where clarity and comfort reside. Imagine someone giving a heartfelt answer in a small group, then suddenly realizing everyone's eyes are fixed on them. That moment, The shift from sharing to being watched sharing changes everything. The authenticity flickers. The body tenses. Because attention, even when kind, can distort the purity of presence. So while the world often encourages people to speak up, stand out, and own the stage, for some, peace doesn't come from being seen. It comes from being understood. People who dislike attention aren't broken, shy, or weak. They're often among the most self-aware, observant, and emotionally attuned individuals you'll ever meet. They listen deeply, feel sincerely, and think before they speak. Not because they're timid, but because they value meaning over noise. In a culture that rewards visibility, their quiet nature can be misunderstood. But beneath that calm exterior lies a complex psychology, one shaped by temperament, experience, and a deep need for authenticity. Now, we'll explore how this mindset shapes their relationships, careers, and self-perception, and how they can navigate a world that often demands attention they never asked for. Because sometimes, the quietest souls aren't avoiding the spotlight out of fear. They're simply protecting their peace. When someone avoids attention, it's easy to mistake their quietness for insecurity. But often, it's not fear of being seen. It's exhaustion from being misunderstood. Attention, for them, carries hidden contracts, expectations to entertain, to please, to perform. And for those who spent years managing the emotions of others, being the listener, the mediator, the one who keeps harmony, that expectation feels like a trap. They don't just dislike attention. They distrust what often comes with it, the loss of control over how they're perceived. Some psychologists call this impression fatigue, the mental weariness that comes from constantly managing social perception. When someone prefers staying out of the spotlight, it can be a quiet rebellion against that pressure, a refusal to perform. For others, it's about identity preservation. They fear that once they become the focus, the purity of who they will be filtered through everyone else's lens. Their quirks become topics. Their emotions become speculation. Their stillness becomes a question. They don't want to be analyzed. They want to be felt, quietly, genuinely, without commentary. And yet, not all who hate attention are reserved or shy. Some are actually confident introverts, people who know their worth but choose intimacy over applause. They can lead, speak, and inspire, but only when a moment feels authentic. They're not against visibility. They're against forced visibility. In truth, many of them are observant souls who thrive in subtleties, the way someone laughs, pauses, or listens. They don't crave the stage because their fulfillment doesn't come from being admired. It comes from understanding. This is a psychology of quiet confidence, a kind that doesn't announce itself but radiates through calm presence. And then there's another layer, social contrast. People who grow up around louder, more expressive personalities often adapt by retreating. They learn that quietness creates safety. Over time, the brain links attention with imbalance, a signal that the energy is shifting toward scrutiny, away from comfort. For these individuals, being the center of attention triggers the body's subtle defense mechanisms, elevated heart rate, tightened shoulders, shallow breathing. It's not dramatics, it's physiology. The nervous system reading social intensity as danger. But here's the paradox. The very people who shy away from attention often leave the deepest impressions. Because when they do speak, they speak with intention. When they show emotion, it feels rare and real. Their restraint makes their authenticity powerful. To hate being the center of attention is, in some way, to value sincerity above spectacle. It's the mark of someone who wants their presence to feel peaceful, not performative. In a world addicted to visibility, that can feel like rebellion, a gentle, silent one. When everyone else is trying to be seen, they're trying to see. They notice moods, undercurrents, the subtle discomfort behind someone's forced smile. They pick up the details most people overlook because they're not busy being the center. They're standing at the edges, observing the truth of things. And yet, that same sensitivity can sometimes isolate them. They might feel unseen, not because people ignore them, but because others only notice what's loud. Quiet people are often misunderstood. Their calm mistaken for indifference, their distance mistaken for coldness. But deep down, their avoidance of attention is rarely about rejection. It's about preservation. They protect their peace the way others protect their image. There's an elegance to that. It takes emotional maturity to know that you don't need to perform to matter. It takes self-knowledge to resist the pull of validation. And it takes strength to hold your ground in a world that constantly says, be more. Still, even those who hate attention sometimes ache for acknowledgement, not for their performance, but for their presence. They want to be seen quietly, to be appreciated without being exposed, to be recognized without being displayed. That's a paradox of the self-aware. They long for connection but recoil from spectacle. They want to be part of the world but not swallowed by it. Maybe that's the heart of it. This trait isn't about hiding. It's about balance. Between wanting to belong and wanting to breathe. Between being visible and being free. So if you're one of those people who shrink when the spotlight turns your way, know this. There's nothing wrong with your quiet nature. You're not lacking confidence. You're expressing discernment. You've learned that not every moment deserves your full exposure. Your peace isn't in the applause. It's in the pause, the calm that comes when you can simply exist without performing. And in a noisy world, that's not a flaw. That's wisdom. Still, ask yourself, are you hiding from the world, or are you protecting what makes you whole? Sometimes, we withdraw not out of fear, but because we know that the world doesn't always handle tenderness well. If this spoke to you, if you saw yourself between the lines, remember that your quiet doesn't make you invisible. It just means your light doesn't need a stage to be seen. So stay soft, stay steady, and let your calm presence do what the loudest voices never can. Make people feel something real. If this changed how you see yourself or someone you know, subscribe for more insights like this. Because sometimes, understanding the quietest minds reveals the loudest truths. And maybe, just maybe, the ones who hate the spotlight are the ones who carry it within,